Hello everyone, we are from Project WOW and welcome to Joint Perspectives episode 3. In the last episode, we heard stories of how Singaporeans were able to build strong bonds with their domestic migrant workers, integrating them seamlessly into their families. Today's episode would be focusing on non-domestic migrant workers in their work environments and exploring a little more about what they do in Singapore. Many migrant workers take on important roles in essential industries such as construction, manufacturing, marine shipyards, and processing, pushing Singapore's development to a higher level. In this episode, we will take some sneak peeks at the work lives of non-domestic migrant workers as shared by some of our fellow Singaporeans who have worked together with them. Our first story is from a 26-year-old male who had an internship at a construction site, and here are his views.
I took on a 3-month internship as a site engineer trainee at a construction site that gave me the opportunity to interact with migrant workers. As I settled down into the job, I began striking conversations with my fellow migrant worker colleagues. The short yet enriching interactions during lunchtime changed my perspectives about migrant workers and allowed me to gradually understand them better. There were definitely language barriers and it was initially hard for me to decipher some of the phrases they used. However, as I grew familiar with the working culture and the cultures of migrant workers, I was able to catch what they were saying through their facial expressions and hand gestures, without them having to complete their sentences in full. Some light-hearted slang I had observed in the work site were bro and lao ta, which means big boss. The intriguing thing was that site engineers who were more senior have been calling migrant workers lao ta. My sense about the deeper meaning of calling migrant workers lao ta was that the site engineers acknowledged and empathized that the nature of migrant workers' job was undeniably long and grueling. By calling them lao ta, it dispels a hierarchical boss-to-worker relationship, allowing the migrant workers to feel appreciated for their work, encouraging and motivating them. I once had a long conversation with one of my colleagues, Raju, who made me realize that migrant workers are not much different from local Singaporeans. Raju holds an electrical engineering degree from his hometown, but came to Singapore in search of better employment and hoped to be able to provide a better life for his family. However, he only managed to get a job as a construction worker here. Nevertheless, he still took things positively and was willing to work hard and negotiate his way through the harsh living and working conditions on a daily basis. Raju's sharing of his life experiences certainly inspired me to embrace a positive outlook towards life. I also learned that migrant workers have dreams and aspirations, similar to us, such as seeking for a better life. However, it is unfortunate that migrant workers face discriminatory attitudes and treatments by some Singaporeans. Additionally, migrant workers also have to reconcile with their internally conflicting predicament of being separated from their families for a sustained period of time. Despite their positive outlook towards life, the longing for one's family does really affect a person's emotional well-being. I chose hope as a symbol for migrant workers because they have put their lives on the line to help to shape the dreams and aspirations of many Singaporeans.
Next up, we have another story from a 22-year-old male who worked as an admin staff in a company that sells gas detectors. The following are his views.
In the company I worked at, the admin staff were mainly locals and Malaysians, while the engineers and technicians were mainly from India and China respectively. As the engineers and technicians are from different nationalities, I find it amazing that they are able to communicate and work with each other, considering that there is no common language in which both groups are comfortable in. However, there were some conflicts between colleagues. There seemed to be a slight tension between the admin staff and staff on site, namely the engineers and technicians. the on-site staff felt that the admin staff were just sitting in the office giving instructions without truly understanding and empathizing with the tough nature of the on-site job. But the migrant workers tended to open up to me a little more because I was seen as more of a neutral party. I admire their mental toughness, as it is not easy to come all the way to a foreign land without family and friends, and having to take up jobs that are physically taxing in nature. I've learned to be appreciative of the comfortable working and living environment that I have. There was once when a technician mentioned that his base pay was $1,000, but I was paid hourly, which roughly equated $1,400 per month. I feel that their jobs are so much more physically taxing than mine, and yet they were paid less. In addition, they probably had some relevant experience prior to the jobs, while I had almost none. This incident really made me think about how fortunate I am to be in Singapore and to be able to have access to many more job opportunities. I have also heard from one of the engineers that even though the pay is slightly below the market rate, he would still prefer to work in that company because the salary is paid punctually, unlike some of his friends in other companies where their salaries could be owed by the companies for up to several months. Despite having laws to protect migrant workers, some employers still choose to delay or even underpay the workers' salaries. I chose the word overlooked to represent migrant workers, as I feel that there are many aspects that people tend to neglect about them, such as their significant contributions to nation building, the poor living and work conditions that they face, or their physical and mental well-being.
That's the end of the sharing, and we would like to thank the volunteers for sharing such unique experiences and perspectives of our migrant workers while working with them. There are also other migrant workers who share the same story as Raju, choosing to come to Singapore to work in blue-collar jobs despite having high education, as they believe that Singapore has better job opportunities. Also, as shared in the second story, the average salary of a migrant worker is often much lower than what an average Singaporean earns. This is because Singapore does not have a minimum wage system, allowing companies to hire migrant workers at low wages. Although there are labour laws in place to protect the rights of the migrant workers, some of them are still shortchanged with delayed or missing payments by their employers. In our next and final video, we will be exploring general perspectives of non-domestic migrant workers outside of the working scene, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you can check out our social media platforms to learn more about the migrant worker landscape in Singapore. Thanks for watching and bye!